Hey guys, thanks for hopping on. We'll give it another minute and then we'll launch in. Thanks for joining. All right, let's go ahead and get started because there's quite a bit of content here and I want to make sure I get through it all and give you guys a chance to ask questions too. Today's topic is expired listings. And I usually do this session about this time of year for a couple of reasons. One is that all things being normal and equal, we're at the end of the typical selling season. And so that meaning that anyone looking to sell their home before a family needed to get kids into school is kind of come and gone. And so anything that hasn't sold by now should be falling off the market. Now, the second reason that I think is even more critical is that, especially in this market, there are still a lot of very aggressive sellers that wanted to price their home at X and didn't realize the market was turning, and the demand for that price point has fallen off. And so that then will also result in expired listing. So again, about this time of year, I kind of go through this. This is a great source of motivated clients, in my opinion. So let's kind of go through this. Purpose: to teach a proactive approach for effectively moving into relationships with people who once indicated a need to sell their home. And so after this class, you should feel confident enough to consistently call on expired listings. So the result is going to be a substantial increase in your revenue. So like anything in real estate, I don't ever suggest that you should just focus on one thing necessarily. And so when you talk about me personally, when I was actively selling real estate, I, like many of you, probably tried a lot of stuff. And I realized eventually that the quickest way to get to closings were to talk to the motivated. And for buyers, that's open houses. For sellers, that's expired listings or for sale by owners. Now, I know plenty of agents that make their entire living off of just expired listings or just open houses or just FSBOs. And it makes sense because there is an endless amount of demand. There's always an expired listing and there's always willing buyers stopping into an open house. But when you talk about this oil well concept, you should have several of these in your prospecting tool belt, so to speak. And expireds can be a big part of that. So I have an actual expired listings system on our website under business building. And while I am going to unpack a lot of this today, I would encourage you to go to that link and download the resources. I'm going to tell you why. Because I have already spent money on several of these expired listing systems, so you guys don't have to. So a lot of the content that is on that site is from coaches and companies that sell this to people, okay? So don't hesitate to go there. There you will also find an expired letter you can send out, all sorts of other resources, scripts, everything that you're going to want to know about expired listings. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the fear of expireds. Okay, and so why call on an expired listing? Well, number one, they're motivated, right? They already raised their hand and wanted to sell a home. You could argue that there are people out there that just want to dip their toe in the water and list their home on the market for an inflated price. And if someone buys it, then great, they'll move. But normally that's not what happens. I mean, to move is a huge disruption. And so anyone that has listed their home and it's fallen off the market are motivated. They are very inexpensive to market to. Either you're not paying Zillow for an expired listing lead, you already belong to the MLS where you can get them every day, all day, okay? They are already familiar with the home selling process. And they have already broken up with their home, which means that they're no longer theoretically emotionally attached to their home. They want to move, they want to sell it for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. So there is none of that emotional connection still there, especially if it's expired. Okay. Because most expired listings expire because of price, and that's not always the case, but they tend to be more realistic about the price of the home after it doesn't sell. Okay, and then lastly, most agents aren't working this process correctly, and the number one downfall of every agent is that they don't stick with it. And so I think I get to this later on in the presentation, but while it's top of mind, you're going to have to reach out to these guys probably 12 to 15 times before they list with you. And so I think that the expired listing oil well is broken out into 3 equal thirds. A third of expired listings are going to list right away after it expires, normally with the agent that had already listed it. The other third will never list it again. They're going to wait until the market improves or whatever. And that turns into, well, we'll just stay here forever. But the middle third is what you're going after. And those are the people that need a break. They need to process what just happened, but they're still motivated on some level. And so you need to gently just continue to stay in touch with them. Okay, so just to set y'all's expectations, it's unlikely you're going to get someone that says, oh yeah, I hate my agent so much, I want to list with anybody that has knocked on my door. You're the lucky person today. Where do I sign? That's likely not going to happen. Okay, it's likely going to take, again, between 10 to 15 touches to build that rapport, for them to gain confidence, for you to list that home. So the perfect client, and I want you to really internalize this, because not all money is good money. They need to have a solid reason to sell. Okay, so they either need to move as soon as possible, they've had a change of life, they want to move out of state, be near grandkids, they just built a home somewhere else, they're on some kind of timetable, right? The second is they have a nice home that will sell. Okay, you just can't put lipstick on a pig and inflate the price by 200%, think that it's gonna sell, and you're the one person on the planet that's gonna be able to do that. Okay, if it was a dog once, it's gonna be a dog forever. Okay? Unless they want to listen to you and take your advice on how to improve it. And then thirdly, recognize your value and are willing to pay for it. All right, so no one that wants to cut your commission is someone that you want to work with. Okay, next, easy to work with and will take your advice. Next, has reasonable expectations. And then lastly, are willing to, put their home on the market within the next 12 months. Now that might seem like a lifetime, but I always tell agents to think of your career in 1-year increments. And so when you think about where we're at mid to late August, you will run up against people that say, I want to wait until spring. And to me, that's fine by me, because that gives me a good 4 or 5 months to build rapport, to continue to market to them, and to just hit as many expired listings as I can between now and February. And all of a sudden, when February, March comes around, you're going to get listings. Okay. You don't want to be doing this after the first of the year. You want to be laying the foundation now. So when I say they need to provide an expectation to you that they're going to put this home on the market within 12 months, that should be a red flag that says, this is someone I want to work with. Okay, I know that we all want the listing today. It just does not work that way. Okay, so I'm just trying to set expectations. So let's talk about why homes don't sell. It's never one thing. So it could be price. And in today's market, that has never been more important, because sellers want more for their home than it's probably worth, right? I know we can all relate to that. But secondly, it might be marketing. And so under the heading of marketing goes a lot of different things. It is photos, it is flyers, it is open houses, it is Facebook posts. It's anything that comes under that how do I promote the home type of umbrella. And then thirdly is exposure. How many people saw it? Okay. Fourth, the agent wasn't nimble enough, in meaning that there were things about the home selling or not selling that revealed themselves to the agent during that process, and they weren't strong enough, or they just didn't move fast enough to react to it and correct it. Okay. And that's when the agent typically goes dark on the client. And I guarantee one of the number one reasons why the client will tell you the home didn't sell was my agent never talked to me. Okay. And think about it. If the listing's 4 months long and it doesn't sell within the first 2 months, on month 3 and 4, that agent is going to run and hide. And so that is very, very common. All right. And then next is seller obstacles. So this is why you want to work with clients that don't throw these up all the time. So what might some of these be? Well, they decline showings, which is the cardinal sin. They only take showings between this time and that time. The home is in disrepair. It's cluttered. It's very challenging when the clients have pets or small kids that they have to kind of figure out what to do with. And so a lot of times they're exhausted by the process and they start declining showings. So there are clearly some things that the seller does that makes our lives miserable. But when you think of the bell curve of when a home's interest is at its peak, I've mentioned this before, it's within the first 2 to 3 weeks. After that, if it hasn't sold, the likelihood of that happening becomes less and less. And so if these obstacles occur up front, or if the home is overpriced and they say, well, we'll try it at this price point and then we'll lower it after 2 weeks if it doesn't sell, that never works, because there's an inverse relationship between a client's adrenaline rush with a new home coming on the market and time. Okay, so these are certain things the seller could have done to sabotage their own listing being sold. And then home amenities are turnoffs to buyers. Some of that you can impact, some of it you can't. If all the bedrooms are on the second floor and most people are looking for at least a master down, you can't control that. But if it is a home that was built in the 1980s and they had an intercom system that they haven't used in 20 years, and there's still a gray and gold console in the middle of what is now the den, with big black knobs on it. I mean, why is that still there? And so it's those types of things that should have been pointed out by the agent that can put the kibosh on a sale. So the attitude that you should come to when dealing with an expired listing is this. So believe that you are the answer to getting their home sold. And oftentimes, believe it or not, you are, because you're a fresh face, you're a new perspective, and you happen to be standing in front of them at that very moment, wanting their business. Okay. And that leads me to my second point. We exist to sell real estate. If you went to get a license and you have an active license, then you are there to solve their problem. Okay, so do not be afraid of their reaction. And I'm going to get to those in a second. All right. And so always approach it from a standpoint of you intend to offer a second opinion versus listing their home, because you have no idea if y'all are going to be a good fit. But you got to talk to enough people to figure that out. And so if you approach everyone with the intention of, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, is this like on the level of crazy from 1 to 10? Are you a 10 or are you a 1? And so you want to approach that prospect with, how can I help you? Let me give you a second opinion if you're open to it. And maybe not, I'll list your home. Okay. And then great segue into my last point, which is not every client is the right client. You know, they may be so angry, they may be so frustrated, it may be so apparent that they have sabotaged their selling their home that they really don't want to sell the home. And so that is not someone you want to work with. It is not worth a sign in the yard to work with a client that didn't fit that profile that we went over a second ago. Okay, so there are a lot of expired listings that come on the market every day. And so your approach should be a laser and strategic approach versus trying to hit everybody. And so I would be very picky regarding who you target, because not every client is the right client. So set up an auto email to yourself to get the expireds every day, to see which ones are worthy of your time. And just as a bonus, the first day of the month usually has the most expireds, because every listing agreement typically ends on the last day of the month. And so January 1st is the mother load, you know, because it's the first day of the new year. Everyone tends to, I mean, if they're listing a home in September, October, they're just going to let it run out on December 31st. Okay, so a lot of these companies that try and sell you these processes will try and convince you to get on the phone on New Year's Day and hit up the 300 expireds that come on the market. Bad suggestion, by the way. But that's why they suggest that, because most of them do come up on that day. So the formula to success for an expired listing is you've got to get quality leads. Just because it fell off the market doesn't mean that you should pick it up. Okay. Plus effective marketing, and I would add the word consistent marketing, plus a powerful presentation and a little luck. Okay, so you got to be at the right place at the right time. But anyone in any company that wins any sales awards for the year have one thing in common, and that is that they're the ones that have talked to the most people. And so goes the strategy for an expired listing. You've got to talk to as many people that are in that category as possible. So there's 3 ways that you can contact people. You can call them, all right? And so it's not that difficult anymore to get their phone number. You can look at the address and Remine, and it will tell you typically what the phone number is. I don't recommend that because they don't get a chance to see you and kind of play off of your body language and vice versa. I know that everyone calls them. And so to my note here, you want to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So I don't recommend a phone call. I do recommend in person. I'm going to get to that in a moment. And then you can mail them, but I would do that only as a means to follow up. Okay, but make it personal and relevant. I wouldn't just mail them a postcard that says, hey, your neighbor's home just sold. I know you're an expired listing. I'm the answer to your prayers. Please call me. I think that once you've contacted them, you can use mail as a follow-up, but it will make sense then because they've already met you. Okay. So let's talk about this concept of your mind movie. So when if you agree with me that instead of hitting 50, you're going to hit 5, and those 5 are going to be so targeted and they so much fit your criteria that you're going to be able to go there in person. And you undoubtedly are going to do everything you can to talk yourself out of knocking on that door. So fun fact, this has happened to me personally more than once. I would go through this process. I would have my things I was going to leave with them, and I would drive up to the home and chicken out because I convinced myself that they were going to be nasty to me, and I would drive away. And so, I mean, I eventually got over that, but it does happen more times than you think. And so, you know, point one, what if they get mad? And so they won't. I mean, I've hit up dozens and dozens and dozens of these guys, and their desire to sell their home really cancels out any anger. Right now, I will tell you that I wouldn't go the day it expires because that's still raw. I would wait several days, maybe even a week, no more than a week. Okay. And the other reason I suggest that is because everyone pounces on them the first 2 days. And when you get inundated with choice, you don't know what end is up. And so think of it this way. They've been pounced on by 100 agents in the first 2 days. And like I said earlier, everyone gives up. So no one calls them on the 3rd and 4th day. You come in on the 5th day with a very nonchalant, hey, how can I help you? I noticed your home fell off the market approach. And all of a sudden, you've got their ear. Okay. If you time it right, they are not going to get mad, which leads me to my next point, which is what if they slam the door on me? Nobody that I have ever pitched to as an expired listing has done that, which is the purpose you go in person. They'll hang up on you, but they rarely slam the door on you. Okay, what if they won't list? Well, they may not. They may not list right away. They may not ever list. But until they tell you to, you know, definitively stop marketing to them, there's still a chance. Okay. And then lastly, what if I bother them? Well, you're not. You know, you're not going to be bothering them. You know, you could argue that there's no good time to call somebody or to knock on someone's door. But if they answer, you're not bothering them. If they don't answer and they're home, that's why I suggest leaving a packet of stuff. Okay. But at the end of the day, so what? You know, if you want to get these listings, you've got to talk to as many people as you possibly can. So weed out the ones that don't want to work with you right away. I guarantee that there's more on the on-deck circle waiting to work with you. All right. So what is the goal with an expired listing? All you're trying to do is find out if they want to relist their home. That's it. That's first and foremost your goal number one. You cannot accomplish that unless you have a conversation. Okay, which it baffles me why agents think they can just mail stuff to people and they're going to be mysteriously enamored with your mail piece and reach out to you as the only agent that exists. I mean, they're just not going to do that. And so you want to get the answer to the question, are you looking to relist? Okay, you want to know why the owners are selling. How motivated are they? And then ask to be interviewed for the job. Do not insist that you can list that home. You want to be humble and you want to say, I get that there's a lot of choice out there and you've probably been bugged nonstop by agents. All I'm asking is just to be interviewed for the job and you can make your choice after that. Now, mind you, if you remember in the past several meetings that we've had, I have mentioned a statistic that is consistent every year with regards to sellers. And it is, how many agents do they interview before they choose one to list their home? And it is less than 3. It's more like 2. And so your odds are 50-50. And so even if you have 0 experience listing homes, someone is going to say yes to you. Okay, so just take heart in that statistic. Okay, so you're going to leave the expired package with your 1-page resume and marketing material. So that is also a goal. You want to leave behind something that they can refer back to and say, oh yeah, I remember that person. I really seem to connect with that person. I'm going to give them a call, because it's rapid fire of information and question and answer. They're not really going to have enough to go on unless you leave something physical for them to refer back to. Okay. The other goal is to schedule a listing appointment. And if you're standing in front of them, that is not that time. That is not your listing appointment. That is a, do you want to relist your home? If so, I want to be interviewed for the job. Let's schedule something later for me to, really assign a level of importance to this. Okay. The other goal is you want to establish rapport, right? No one's going to list a $300,000 home with you based on this one interaction. Okay. So you need to create trust, earn their trust, as I mentioned next, but build that rapport so that they feel confident in listing with you. And then follow up consistently, offer something of value, use our follow-up plan template. So on our business building page, we have a template where I list multiple things you can continue to send them. Because again, it's going to take 12 or 15 touches. So you got to keep in touch with them. And so the question becomes, what do I send them? How do I do that? And so it's things like a CMA, things like, hey, there's an open house this weekend. Would you like to join me? It's an RPR report about the valuation of their home. It's anything about the town that they live in, things like that. That's why I mentioned earlier, when you market to them by mail, keep it relevant and keep it personal. Okay. Now, as you're following up with them on this last point, if you live close, which I would suggest you do, I don't suggest hitting expireds 10 miles from where you live. If you plan to follow up with them 15 more times, I would absolutely hand deliver whatever it is you're sending them. If you live that close, don't mail it, because the mail is unreliable these days, but that tells them, hey, they were here and they took the time to drop this off. Okay. And so if you live within 3-4 miles, that makes it that much easier. All right. So the next question is, well, what do I bring? All right. So get a professional looking folder and bring the introduction letter that I have on our website under Blueprint for Expired Listings. Keep it brief, non-judgmental, don't throw the other agent under the bus. And in that folder, you're going to include that, your 1-page resume, a quick CMA. So it's that 1-pager of, hey, here are the homes that are on the market. Here are the homes that sold. And I would add on, here are the homes that expired, because that can be telling as well. Okay. And then your 1-page marketing plan, including how you would communicate with the seller. That is on our website as well. So if you don't have one, it's on there and it's in Word format so that you can add or delete whatever suits your style best. And then I would do ad samples. So what do I mean? Well, and I would just do one. And so you should have an account for Breakthrough Broker. If you don't, sign up for one, it's free. JC can also do marketing material for you as well. And that might be a better way to go because it's co-branded. And so the seller knows that you're aligned with a lender that can either help him or help the buyers. But just take a picture either of your own or take the one off the MLS and just use the front shot and put it in a sample ad that you might use for their home, because that allows them to envision what you would do with your branding, your logo, and how it would look if you listed the home. Recent sales in their neighborhoods, that's going to be in keeping with the CMA. Free ebook seller's guide from Lender. So JC has that. That's on our website as well. And then emphasize your responsiveness and hyper-local focus on their neighborhood. I mention this because this is the one complaint that the seller is going to have with their other agent. They didn't respond, they weren't communicative, and they didn't know the area. Okay. And then something memorable, something gimmicky, I put down here like an aspirin or sweets, candy, and things like that always strike a chord. However, when I mention aspirin, so there's a gimmick that you can do that says, hey, here's a couple of aspirin to get rid of that headache that you just went through trying to market your home or trying to sell your home and it fell off the market. So something like that, because that demonstrates your out of the box thinking, and not just when they ask you, how are you going to sell my home? Every realtor's response is, I'm going to do an open house, I'm going to put on the MLS, and hope that someone comes by, right? And so if you can demonstrate a higher level of marketing, that's going to stand out. So what do sellers want in general? Well, they want a well thought out plan, right? And that is going to come from knowledge of the home, knowledge of the area, and how that kind of home should be marketed. All right. They do not want to be sold to, they just want to connect. And that's the seller, right? From us to them. All right. They don't want to be, vomited all over about how great of an agent you are and what you're going to do to sell their home. They just want to connect at the end of the day. All right. They want responsiveness and immediate communication. All right. So the cardinal sin is if a client has to ask you about something you told them you were going to do. That means that you didn't do whatever it was you promised quick enough. Okay. Hyper local expert, self-explanatory, right? You need to know the market. The truth delivered tactfully. So I think I may have sent this out in a video, but I saw this thing on probably Facebook that said if you care about telling someone the truth, then if you tell someone something they need to hear, then you're a customer advocate. If you tell them what they want to hear, then you're only trying to help yourself. Okay. So I don't care what any seller tells you, they're hiring you to be led, which means that they're hiring you to tell them the hard truth. So if you think it's appropriate to get rid of half the furniture in that house, tell them that. If you think it's appropriate to sell quicker, that they get it staged, or they need to repaint a room, or they need to take down the personal photos, tell them that. Okay. They're going to thank you for it because it's all in the effort of trying to get it sold. Right. And then next, they want to be heard. Right? They want to know that their opinion counts and that they're part of this process. All right? They want assurance from us that we can handle the job, and with that comes security. Right? They want reliability in us. They want someone they know, like, and trust. They want a problem solver. They want confidence and relevance from their realtor. Right? And so I've always said, always approach these guys from a perspective of absolutely, I can sell your home. Okay. Because what else are you going to say? Unless it's just blatantly obvious that you don't want to take the listing. All right. And so that's what we're in business to do. That's kind of where that confidence comes from. All right. And then lastly, and this may seem obvious, but let them know that you want their business. Ask for their listing. And sometimes that is what makes the difference. A lot of these agents go in and pitch to them, and they assume that the seller should know that they want their business, but it's just a sign of respect that you say, look, I've told you a lot of stuff. I would be honored to sell your home, and I really want your business. Would you be comfortable moving forward? All right, so let's go through a couple of things that I would say when approaching an expired listing. So let me just set the scene for you. So this would be, you've looked through the expired listings, you've targeted one that you want to go up and knock on the door on, and that's where you are. Mrs. Jones answers the door. Hi, Mrs. Jones. Hi, I'm Brad from White Rock Realty. I assume I'm not the first person to reach out. Pause. That's gonna break the ice. And she's gonna say, oh my gosh, or give you some kind of reaction, right? And you're gonna say, I know, it's been crazy. The market's crazy. Well, listen, I noticed that your home came off the market recently. Tell me, what are your plans? Are you planning to relist? And then just wait for them to respond. And it'll be yes, no, or maybe. It's one of those three responses. And then you follow up by saying, well, I know you've been bombarded with a lot of information by lots of realtors. But listen, I work with clients in your situation all the time. I specialize in what we call an expired listing. If you're going to relist, I would love to be considered for the job. Are you looking to move soon? Do you have to be out by a certain time? And so in that paragraph, you've kind of, planted your flag in the sense that you're telling them who you are, what you do, and you're the best at what you do. But then you're following up by trying to get some more information from them, and trying to get a timeline is really more important, right? And then, just kind of scratch your head and, figuratively, and just say, you know what? Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, this is a beautiful home. And I know the neighborhood. Why do you think it didn't sell? And, usually they're going to say, I don't know, man. I mean, I think I thought it was priced right. And, my agent told me this and my agent told me that. And you're just there to listen and really gather information, because whatever they say in response to that, you're going to internalize and be able to, speak to later. Okay. So then you say, so I don't know if you're at this point yet. Translation, I don't know if you're mentally there to where you are going to entertain relisting this home. Okay. But would it be worthwhile to hear a second opinion? And no pressure. I just want to help you. Okay, so so she's going to say something. So if she at all implies that, yes, that would be worthwhile, hey, when can I come back and take a look? Or is now convenient? Some of them say, yeah, come on in. But most say, no, now's not a good time. And then just say, well, okay, let me leave this with you. If it's okay with you, I'd love to follow up with you in maybe 2 weeks to see if things have changed. Would that be okay? All right. And so as you can see, that approach is much more collaborative, and it's no pressure whatsoever, because you are going to follow up and you're not going to wait 2 weeks to do it. We're going to get to the timeline in a second, but you're not going to be pushy. That's not going to get you anywhere with these guys. But in this scripting, you do want to try and get a commitment to come back and look inside the house. Now, mind you, if you don't even get to that point, through the MLS and other resources, you're going to be able to get probably all that you need to form an opinion. Now, the only thing that you probably can't come up with, yes, is the definitive price, because you haven't seen the inside of the home yet. Okay, now, if the agent hadn't removed all the pictures from the MLS, you can kind of get a sense of what's inside, but you're going to want to visit the home in person to really get a sense of what the home's worth. Okay, all right, so the key points to this is listen and ask questions, allowing them to self-discover. And so if you show up, as I mentioned earlier, a week after the home falls off the market, then they're going to have time to get over their anger and their frustration, and they're going to settle into the logic mode, which is, why didn't this sell? And what am I going to do now? And so asking questions like, why do you think it didn't sell? What went on? This home is beautiful and it's in a great neighborhood. What happened? and let them offer up 3 to 4 things. Okay. And in that process, they're going to realize what's most important to them. All right. And then next, focus on their emotional state with their last agent and not the home selling process. They already know about that part. Okay. Which means that you're not going to throw the agent under the bus, but they would have relisted with that person had that relationship ended well. So again, you're here, you want their business, you're going to continue to follow up with them, you're going to be persistent, and you are a new and an objective party. You're not a neighbor's referral. You're not someone the spouse insisted you go with. You are someone they have never met before, which plays 100% in your favor. Okay. So next, be confident and assertive, but not pushy and arrogant, right? You want to, when it comes to selling anything, that's kind of what you need to do, right? So be confident and assertive, but not pushy and arrogant. Be seen as their solution and a calming force in what has probably been complete dysfunction, right? And then the other key point, homes sell or don't sell for many reasons. It's not necessarily just price, okay? Many times I've seen where the photos are a train wreck and agent thought it was appropriate to put a shot of the bedroom or this newly remodeled kitchen as the first picture they see. And that's just not what you should do. And many times the seller just trusts implicitly the agent to do what they think is right without checking up on them. And so think about that. If the seller isn't looking in Zillow until a couple of days after the listing's gone live, just kind of look at it, by then it's too late. It's already hit people's emails that have a auto email, and they're trying to get a hold of their agent won't respond, and all of a sudden 2 weeks, 3 weeks peel off the calendar and they're wondering why the home didn't sell. Okay. And it may not have been price, it may have been these horrible photos. All right, so here are some objections that you might run into. So a factual objection as to why they won't relist their home. Well, my spouse isn't moving for a job, so we won't be moving. That's pretty definitive. Okay. What was causing them to list again doesn't exist anymore. So game over. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Here's my card. Here's a packet of information in case you're going to decide later that you are going to move, but I'm not going to bug you. And I wouldn't continue to follow up. Okay. Then you have the stalling objections, which are things like, we haven't decided yet. I'm interviewing other agents. It's not the right time of year, which is bogus. Still need to do some repairs or remodeling. Just gonna wait. We're beat down from the whole process. So these are good clients, right? I mean, they're just stalling. They don't know. They don't want the confrontation. They don't want to think about it right now. And that's why the intimidation tactic and browbeating just does not work. Okay. So let's talk about the follow-up process. So you are never the only agent trying to get this listing. However, and most clients will not list right away. It's 5 to 15 contacts to see any kind of results. They are getting to know, like, and trust you. Most agents stop at 2 contacts. Guarantee. Ask any expired listing when they stopped getting phone calls and it was day 3 or beyond. Okay. That's because most people want the easy, low-hanging fruit. You're out of your mind. Why aren't you listing with me? Okay, forget you. I'm just going to move on. That is not how this clientele works. Okay, so you knock on the door, you've had a personal interaction. Day 1, you send them a personal note card with your business card. Okay, it gets in the mail 2 days later. Oh yeah, I remember her. She stopped by and asked me about the home. Awesome. Day 3, item of value based on what you know. Okay, so if they told you that, I think our home didn't sell because all of our bedrooms are on the top floor, send them homes that did sell, where all the homes were on the first floor, whatever. They will have told you something that is meaningful that you can send them. Let's say that they said, oh, my wife and I are going off to take a trip to Spain. Oh, really? You guys travel quite a bit? Oh, yeah, we've been all over the country. We've seen this, 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 and this. Okay, awesome. That's something you should file away, where in this example on day 3, you will have come across, because you've searched for it, an article on things you should see when you travel to Spain. And then, like I said earlier, don't mail it. If you live close enough, drop it off. All right, day 7, pop by, gift, or call them. Day 14, you can email them something. Okay, and then every 2 weeks after that, either a note, an item of value, a call, do a CMA, because CMAs change every week. So that will never get stale. Okay, a pop by gift, something neighborhood specific. Maybe the local government is enacting some ordinance they need to be aware of. You could send a vendor list. If they're a seller, they're going to need to make repairs or improvements. Maybe they don't know what plumber to call. Okay, so if you do this consistently, you will get business. Okay, so let's talk about, once you get more than a couple of expired listings that you're going to continue to follow up with. Okay, what does this mean to work your list? So I would use current and old expired. So if they've expired in the past 90 days, it's game on for sure, but don't hesitate to go back a year, especially 1 year or more, because they wanted to sell at one point, and a year is a good time that they're going to be thinking about that again. Reasons to reach out. Okay, so sorry. You're going to place a value of A, B, C, or D to each based on their motivation level. So A means you connected with them, they're thinking about listing with you, you just got a good vibe from them, they're an A client. Okay, B, lesser degree, right? Maybe their timeline isn't right away, they didn't give you definitive answers to your questions, you really don't know how they rank. Same really goes for a C client. C would be, I have no idea when I'm going to relist. It might be next year. It might be 2 years from now. I don't know. Just leave me alone. Okay. D is, I'm never going to list again. And you're not ever going to call them again. Okay. But you need to apply a level of importance to each of these guys, because you're not going to market to them equally. Reasons to reach out or to call. All right. So once you've had that initial interaction, you've got to find reasons to reach back out. Well, new listings, right? So that's a good one. New closings in the neighborhood, in the area, and there are going to be some. Price reductions. This is rampant, by the way, and I would add on to here one that's not here: homes that came back on the market. Okay, so all this is intel that you hope will motivate them to relist their home and relist it with you. Okay. Next is open houses. Okay, there's an open house 4 doors down. I'm gonna be there at 1 to check it out. Let's go together. And then during the spring, and because there's more buyers after the holidays, so spring is when people are, like I said when I first started, they are ripe to list their home. Summer is the height of the selling season, and there's more demand and more activity going on. Okay, so in that selling season, you're going to be able to provide them with more data. And then in the fall, there is far less competition for obvious reasons. Kids are back in school, and so on. And then if they're thinking about listing in the wintertime, that is also a good idea, because the only buyers that are out there looking are going to be serious buyers. Okay, so there is a learning to provide these folks at every season of the year. Okay, the only month out of the entire year where it's pretty dead is January. Okay, just FYI. So even December and November when you got major holidays, there is still activity going on. Okay. So some advanced strategies you might want to use. If you have a current buyer, you might look at expired listings to take that buyer to. Because again, at one point, the seller wanted to sell. It's not available now, but all they wanted was a willing buyer. And if you have that, you might be able to get some kind of payment from the seller for bringing the buyer above and beyond the 3%. Now, if that particular buyer doesn't work out, then obviously you have some rapport built there where you might want to come back and suggest relisting their home, because that proves to the seller that you have active clients. Invite expires to an open house you're hosting. Use video, which means either YouTube or do a video text. And then lastly, you might think about specializing in just luxury expired. So anything at whatever, 600, 700,000 or above, because that is a niche market. But I guarantee you that it takes no more effort to sell $1 million home than it does a $300,000 home, relatively speaking. Okay. But everyone's afraid to approach these guys. I wouldn't be. Okay. So what is a reasonable goal for your expired listing strategy? All right. So I would set up your daily email with your criteria, which means what's the price point, what's the geographic area that you want expired listings to come from. Create 1 to 2 what I would call mantras, or your mind movie that tells you what you're going to say and how you're going to feel, what you're going to think when you approach an expired listing. And I used to say, look, I'm just here to help you. It's yes, no, or maybe. I'm just here to help you. I'm not here to give you the hard sell. Maybe I can help you, maybe I can't. And then next is create your expired packet. Don't waste more than 2 days on this. Just get going on it. You don't have to include everything at first, but it's on our website. It's under business building. But have those packets ready so that you don't give yourself an excuse to not go see an expired because you don't have anything to bring them. Okay. And so just keep 5 or 6 of them already made so you can take one when you're ready to go. Okay. And then second, determine what you will send in your follow-up system. There's nothing worse than scrambling to try and find something to send somebody. So if you visit 3 expireds each weekend, and I did this based on 48 weekends a year, because you take out holidays, you take out vacations, whatever, that's 144 separate people that you'll get to a year, right? So if you just divide that in 2, let's say 2, half of them just fall off, they don't give you the time of day. That's 72, all right? So let's say half of those list with you. Now I'm talking about the entire year. That's still 36. So even if, what I have, 72, I mean, even if 30% ended up listing, that's still 22 listings. And I used to do a calculation where, okay, well, how many of those aren't going to sell? I mean, that's somewhat unrealistic today. They're probably all going to sell. But that 22 listings, I mean, I'm always baffled as to why people aren't doing this. Because I mean, I think it's easy money. Even if half of that, that's still 10, 11. And so, but you're not going to get there unless you stay consistent. I think it's going to be I think it's easy to hit 3 a weekend. You know, I just do. I'm not asking you to do 30. I'm just saying do 3. And you're going to get business. So here are some of the other kind of what I would call power questions that you can ask them. You know, tell me, why are you selling right now? What's your favorite part of the house? What would make this a killer listing? What will buyers like most? What will buyers like least? This gets to the heart of it quicker. In your opinion, What do you think the house, why do you think the house didn't sell? If I could show you how I solved that, would that be important to you? What do you plan to do differently this time? That's a good one. What makes you nervous about this process? Because everything in real estate's emotional. What's the best part about your new home? What gets you excited about the move? So they're obviously going somewhere. And so you're going to find people just thinking, okay, I got to get to this new house. How can I get out of this house quick? Right? So you want to get them thinking about where they're going next. And so they want to be running to something versus running away from something. Okay. So in the spirit of time, I'm going to breeze through these. Accountability is key, obviously. What gets measured gets done. So if you do want to commit to an expired listing strategy, you got to measure how many of these calls you make, right? So I'm just talking about a weekend. I mean, even part-time folks can do this. Hit 3 on a Saturday and you're done. And so, but you need to be able to look at a sheet of paper that says, yeah, I did 3 this Saturday, or I did 6 this Saturday. And here's some pre-listing questions. These are on our website in case you get stuck, right? Because we all choke. We don't know how to lead the conversation sometimes, myself included. And so I have a blueprint for doing that. And then, so what wins always? Well, confidence, right? You can't be wishy-washy. So if it doesn't come out of your mouth, at least tell yourself, I can sell this home. Yes, I can absolutely sell your home. Okay. Not sure what went wrong the first time, but there is a buyer for every home and my job is to find them. That is a true statement. Okay. There is a buyer for every single home. There are no vacant homes out there, figuratively speaking. There are, if they are, they just haven't found the right buyer. And we all know that. Right? An expired listing is rarely the result of the home itself. It's usually the seller or the agent or both. Okay, whether it's the physical attributes of that or the advice that the seller gave the agent or the seller bullied the agent or whatever. Right? I mean, there in this market, there is no reason why a home should expire. Okay, so let's quickly go to the MLS. And I'm going to show you where these are. And you're looking at North Texas. So if you don't know how to set up an auto email for a client, or in this case, yourself, you're going to be the client, there's a video on how to do that on our website under how-to videos. And let's just see for grins. You should have the same thing, okay? And so I have mine set to show me all of this data within the past 24 hours. You could do today, 3 days, 7 days. Let's just do 7 days. There were 74 expires in the past 7 days. Pretty staggering. Let's do past 24 hours. 8. I'm going to click on 8. And maybe with the exception of these $2-3 million homes, wouldn't you agree that these are wonderful price points? Why did they not sell? Okay, so depending on where you live, you might look at these. So John Howard's on the phone. John might look at North Richland Hills. Here's one in North Richland Hills. Here's one in Fort Worth. This is just in the past 24 hours. I'm picking on John because we've talked about expireds before. But you don't have to hit up all 8. And I'm guessing that John doesn't have time to look at all 8, but he could look at 3, and they're probably right in his backyard. And so the same goes for you guys. So let's say you did this. Hang on, let me just go back. So let me just do a general search, detailed. We're going to get rid of all this, and we're going to do expired. So I always say, if the real estate industry didn't place value on the low-hanging fruit that we call expired listings, why would they have a pick box for it? So we already know that this is a viable source of business. So anyway, get off my soapbox. So over the entire MLS, there are 1,559 searches. Let's say I just want to look in Tarrant County. Right, so there's 223. So that's a lot. So maybe you just do your zip code or whatever. Okay. But whatever that is, you're going to click results, and that's going to be what comes up. So let's say this was your search. You're then going to do save, new auto email, and you're going to add yourself as the contact, put expired listings in there as the title, whatever. Don't forget to scroll all the way down and say you want these ASAP. Okay, not daily. You want them once they come on the market. Okay. Save, and now you're going to get an email every time a new expired listing comes on the market. So it's all about automation. You want to make the work as little as possible. Okay, you don't want to spend time getting the lead; they're already here. You want to spend time in front of the client converting them. Okay, so so that's how the leads are going to come in. Again, once you get to those itemized rows of who they are, pick and choose. You can go into these and probably determine why they didn't sell. You know, here's one, 265, 144 bucks a square foot. Pictures look somewhat decent. It's vacant. You know, this might be one where I have no idea. Maybe it's near new construction. Don't know. It was built in 86. I don't know. Maybe something happened. Sometimes it's more obvious than this, but you, as a realtor, you can go in here and kind of make your own deductions. All right. So, so anyway, that is about 90% of what you need to know about how to get and work expired listings. All right. So we've went over how to find them, how to set up the leads that come into you, and really just how many there are every day. And they're going to be a lot more. That's why I chose to do this today, because greedy sellers are realizing that they can't get what they want for their home and the listings are expiring. Okay, way more than any other time in America's history. I'm starting to sound like a politician, but it is true. So, and then we've talked about possible scripts. Everything else that you're going to need to bring them is on our website. I will leave you with this. Do not overthink this. Even if you showed up with your business card, that is going to be enough, because your conversation is going to be collaborative. It's going to be problem solving in nature. You're not going to go there and spit out a price. Yeah, I can get this sold for you at whatever. You're not doing them a good service by doing that anyway. Okay. You want to take a measured approach, a well thought out strategic approach, so that they become, you know, they get to know, like, and trust you. And then later on down the road comes the price and all the recommendations and everything you're going to do. Right. So just continue to chip away at that trust factor, between 5 and 15 touches, and you're going to get some of these. I guarantee it. Okay. So does anyone have any questions or comments or anything they want to add?
I do, Brad. I want to add something. So in some cases, you know, these expireds transpired, you know, because it couldn't sell, or you know, repairs, or who knows what. But in some cases, it's lending. Maybe the seller's lending fell through elsewhere, and they couldn't move forward. So obviously, as the lender here, I would just suggest that you know, if that was the case, if you were having an in-depth conversation and that was the case, obviously, you know, I would love for you guys to suggest myself to try to dig deep and try to resolve that issue. A lot of times, you know, there are a lot of loan officers out there and a lot of realtors, as you know, and a lot of new ones that don't have the experience. So if they're not digging deep and asking the right questions, that is a strong possibility why their financing fell through, and therefore, couldn't sell their home. So just a thought, food for thought. That's all I had to say.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Well, listen, I'll just leave you with this. No one likes a cold lead. But a cold lead turns into a warm lead after the first conversation. And the good news about an expired listing versus just knocking on anyone's door, which used to be a proposed method of getting sales years ago, is that they want to sell. And so you already have something to talk about. The only difference is that they don't know you and you don't know them yet. However, they're going to know what you do, and there's a natural progression as to why you're there. So I would just challenge you to, this weekend, look at one near your neighborhood. Just go to one. Just go to one and see where it goes. And who knows? Maybe it'll be that seller that is going to eventually list with you. But you got to at least start somewhere. So anyway, if any of you want to kind of dig deeper and make this a part of your source of business and really assign a more structured plan to it, let me know, and I'll be glad to set up some time with you and do that. But anyway, I'll leave you with that, and I will see you guys here next Thursday at 1. You guys have a great rest of the week.